The DNR manages more than 2 million acres of forested trust lands around Washington state, using the art and science of silviculture. Silviculture deals with the methods for establishing and maintaining healthy communities of trees and other vegetation that have value to people. That value can be traditional financial value, or it can be fire hazard management, wildlife habitat, recreation, etc. But the purpose of silviculture is the production and maintenance of such a forest as shall best fulfill the objectives of the owner. For Washington, the value of silviculture is demonstrated by forests that will continually support the trust beneficiaries. At statehood in 1889, the U.S. Congress granted Washington millions of acres of land to support public institutions. By the 1930s, the state came to manage areas like Capitol Forest, after logging companies heavily logged much of the timber and either sold the land or were subject to foreclosure due to tax delinquency. The area was essentially void of trees and was so fire-prone that the Black Hills moniker stuck because of its oft-charred landscape. In 1957, the state purchased land to build a Webster Forest nursery, and millions of seedlings from Webster were replanted in the area, reforesting about 10,000 acres. Washington's forests are grown with seed collected in a manner that recognizes the complexity of how and where trees grow. A Douglas fir grown in Colville is different genetics from a Douglas fir grown in Capitol Forest. When seed's collected, be it a seed at an orchard or from wild trees, it's cleaned, sorted, and stored in freezers to retain its viability. Seeds are then planted in either the greenhouse, in containers, or in the outdoor beds, where young seedlings are tended to by farm labor. They're irrigated and protected from frost. Some are outplanted to grow for another season, while others are put directly into shipping bags. The next step is to pack the seedlings and to put them into cold storage so they can be ready to ship to the field stations. Planting areas need to be prepared for the new trees. Foresters call this site preparation. It can either be a chemical or mechanical treatment that is done to reduce competing vegetation species that will take nutrients, water, and sunlight away from the native planted seedlings. The DNR works with reforestation contractors to conduct site preparation and young stand management activities. In either method, the site is carefully screened to remove areas needing protection, such as wetland or streams.
This was site prepped in 2019 in July and planted this year. This unit we decided to site prep because it had the species that would take over if we didn't. It had the, salmonberry. If you look around, we'll pan around and you'll see there's vine maple, Himalayan blackberry, cottonwood. So it had the spectrum. So that's why I opted to site prep.
Stands are planted with more trees than would be needed at harvest time to account for natural mortality. By around age 10 to 15, individual trees begin to express their dominance. After several years of growing, stands may be thinned out before a final harvest. Foresters call this pre-commercial thinning, or PCT. This encourages the growth of the healthiest and highest quality trees. On drier sites like the rain shadow of the Olympics or in eastern Washington, grass competition can seriously impact conifer growth. Herbicides are used in this case and are rarely needed once the new seedlings are established.
Things are always growing, so they're filling in the holes, they're shading out the holes, they're doing whatever, but then you're getting this pulse of regeneration depending upon the species, every 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 7 years. And so it takes 20 plus years to get a fully stock stand of natural regeneration, and it may take even longer in some cases. But and hence why are we planting 220 trees? Because we're trying to jumpstart that process and get these stands stocked. And the time value of money is pretty significant, and it does make sense to do this.
The value of silviculture is a forest that meets management objectives. If the management objective is for northern spotted owl habitat, there might be a further thinning at mid-rotation, with there being no plan to final harvest the stand. That basically means that the objective is to grow big trees for the owl to nest in. For those with an emphasis on revenue production, a well-tended Douglas fir stand will produce many board feet per acre by harvest age. But one of the most rewarding things for foresters is watching the process happen in real time.
Being a forester and laying sales out, you could really see your decisions into the future. After the sales harvest, you can see the trees being planted, you could see the trees being PCT'd at year 7, and you can also see the trees being harvested at year 40 and above. Those are the things that I really look forward to throughout my career, is to going back to the stands and seeing those decisions I made.
When we plant a 2-year-old seedling that's, you know, a couple feet tall, it's maybe knee high when it's in the ground, it looks like something's going to take a really, really long time. And it does. It takes, you know, we're looking 30, 40, 60 years for this little tree to reach maturity. And I can feel comfortable knowing that we made decisions based on relevant science to meet the objectives of that landowner and meet the objective of the beneficiaries.